Welcome to Fridays 5. This is Suzanne Caldeira. I'm a mortgage originator with Guaranteed Rate. But on my Fridays 5, I reach out to people that I know who've inspired me, or people that I want to know who've inspired me, to ask them 5 questions and get to know them better and just have a conversation. And I hope that this conversation and that these talks inspire you in your lives. And at the end of the segment, you'll get a way that you can learn more about my guest. These views are my own, not necessarily Guaranteed Rates, my own and my guests. So today I've got Jeremy Dubois from Super Fun Activities Group, who is an inspiring dude who's crushing it in life, now crushing it in real estate, and living the life that he wants instead of trading time for money. So I'm going to dive right in with question number 1. What inspires you?
There's many things that do inspire me. I try to take different pieces from different people that are smarter than me, and it's not hard to find people that are smarter than me. But when it really cuts down to the core for me of like what my passion is, what inspires me, it's being able to live a free life. And by that, I mean to have the financial flexibility to be able to do what I want and to be able to surround myself with good people. What drives me in life is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, essentially without restriction. And fortunately for me, I have very simple joys in life that don't cost a ton of money. And like awesome nights for me are cooking outdoors on a griddle and having campfires with 6 or 7 people and playing board games, and like those are awesome nights for me. And then through the Super Fun Activities Club, it's kind of just like a grander scale of that, where we market these games or sports not so much for the sport itself or for the game, but we target specific types of people that kind of get the bigger picture in life. And it's like, hey, you're 32 years old and you're getting to play kickball on a Friday night with 85 other people. And it doesn't really matter whether you win a game of kickball when you're 32. It doesn't really matter ever, but it doesn't actually matter. And like we kind of attract that people that kind of get the bigger picture and just want to play the game for a little bit of activity and a little bit of, to get some steps on a Fitbit, but more so to enhance the quality of their life and to make connections with people, to have them grow their social circle with, just people that make their lives better on both ends.
There's so many people that, they want to do right and they want to do the good thing, but yet, maybe because of how they've set up their lives, they've got too much debt, or they're too far in the weeds of their brain of the 5 inches in between, which I think is in between your ears, of that space of the stories that they're telling themselves. What can you share for someone that might be that person? And were you ever that person?
I used to hold like normal traditional jobs. It's still, at the end of the day, it was one stream of income, and it was exchanging your time for money. And if you didn't go to work, or you chose not to go to work, you chose not to get paid. The biggest thing for me has been just education. But in our country, people are, and I hate to say this, but people are predominantly financially illiterate and don't understand finances. They don't understand how money works, and they're never taught to use assets to work for them. They're taught, go to school, be a good student, go to college, because that's what you should do, and then get a good job and trade your time for money for 35 years and then enjoy your retirement. It's like, well, what happened to those 35 years? You have to make a ridiculously high hourly rate in order to ever truly become wealthy. And the problem is that in order to do that, you have to give your time. Whereas if you can control assets that produce income, and the more passive you can be involved in those assets, now all of a sudden you have your money or your asset, whatever it is, working for you when you're fishing, when you're skiing. But it's more of changing your mindset in saying, how can I acquire assets that over a long period or over a period of time can change your life, and then give you that freedom to pursue what you want to do.
This is probably a good segue for my second question that I love asking my guests, which might explain a little bit of how you got to this point. Who were maybe some of the mentors, or who have been some of your mentors, or people that inspired you to say, hey, you know what? This is what I want to do.
When I was in high school, my grandfather passed away, and it was the first time I ever lost anybody. My mom's father, my maternal grandfather, had picked me up from school, and I remember just talking to him that day on like a real level that was outside of your traditional, things that you talk about. One of the things he said to me on that day was, he carries, this was dating myself here, this is before the internet. He carries a dictionary in his pocket. Anytime he ever heard a word that he didn't know, he wanted to look it up so that he wouldn't stop learning. And I was 16 at the time. And to me, I just said, something clicked there. And I was like, here's a guy that's lived a majority of his life, and he hasn't thrown in the towel on using his brain as a muscle and expanding it and never stop learning. The next layer of that is my dad. He's a retired school teacher. He was a phys ed teacher, and it is inherently in my blood to want to get people to find that inner child in themselves, to play games and interact and laugh. When I was a kid, we'd have water balloon birthday parties, and I remember all the kids that would come over and party and be like, my parents would never let me do this. And I was just like, well, this is how we live. This is what we do. And now that I'm older, you appreciate how amazing having good parents that love you and are willing to make sacrifices, and how inspiring it was, and how appreciative I was to have that, those two specific people in my life to kind of guide me into that. Never stop learning. Do what makes you and other people happy. As I started to have more time freedom, I was educating myself predominantly through podcasts. Big part of it was through Bigger Pockets, and specifically I clicked with Brandon Turner's, I don't know, just the way he thinks, the style that he delivers his information. And after I bought my first place, I actually sent him a message and just said, thanks for changing my life. I don't have to work ever again if I don't want to. I'm still going to, because I love it.
Talking about that guy's podcast and how he's inspired you leads into my third question. I love asking my guest, Jeremy, is what books or podcasts have inspired you? But you said something that is so huge, and I hope you say it again, of the cost of a book. You remember what you said? Please share that. And also share books, podcasts, because there might be another Jeremy like you that you can inspire.
One podcast that really resonated with me was Get Rich Education by Keith Weinholt. He's a guy I think he's around my age, but got involved in real estate at 22, and became financially free pretty early in life. And he's just very, very logical. And when people get scared for the unknown, math and logic help make it become real. And he just became one of the wealthiest podcasters in the history of the world, is Joe Rogan. For just life views, he's somewhat controversial, but I have a ton of respect for this guy, because he is, to me, he's very, very real, authentic, and he's extremely well-rounded. He's taken his life views and he's honed them for 52 years, where he didn't just fall into a rut and then stay on it, and he's still challenging his own views. For books, The Richest Man in Babylon is a great one. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, the Cash Flow Quadrant. And this is what we mentioned before we started recording was I was looking at buying another 4-family last week. The agent that had the listing, I got along well with, and he was like a really sharp guy. And then I saw a comment in a Bigger Pockets Facebook group on a post, and I was like, that name is familiar. And it turned out to be his, like, I was like, oh, that's the guy that I was just dealing with a few days ago. He actually has his own podcast where he reads a book on either finance, real estate, or business, and then he interviews the author, and he kind of does a deep dive, saying what he likes about the book, but then like just getting to know the author. And the authors are like who's who of real estate and business, just like names that you go, oh my God. But one of the things that Scott said, or he says multiple times on his podcast, which I want to say it's called The Book Review. If anybody ever figures out how much value are in books, we'll never be able to afford them, because you can buy a book for $15 or $20, and for $15 or $20, you get to dive inside the mind of somebody that is most likely brighter than we are, and you get their knowledge, their perspective, their thoughts on topics that are interesting to you if you're reading their book. And think of how much value is in that, where there's access to it. Like, all you have to do is fork over $20, and then you can get lost in the world of somebody else's brain that has done really cool things in life.
Leads me to my fourth, defining moments. A lot of people have a defining moment or moments that can really get them on whatever path that they're on. Or is there any one or two or any that really stand out to you that you think have made you right now? When
I was gonna start the Super Fun Activities Club, and you put in all this work, and like I just went all in, and I said, I'm gonna make this thing work. And then I remember when I started to see the registrations come through, and then you see that, like, names that you didn't know, and then people start showing up. And then I remember the point when I was looking at it and I said, this is going to be financially viable. But I remember when I started to see it, where the numbers started to work, where I said, I'm never going to get rich from doing this, but I can sustain my lifestyle just from doing this. And it's awesome. Like, I get to hang out with cool people. I get to meet cool people that I never would have met otherwise. Like, there's 0% chance I would have met them. And I get to hang out with them and know, like, it's so cool. And I can sustain a lifestyle from doing it. And I remember that moment where I started to, like, analyze the numbers and be like, this is gonna work. This is really cool. Another one was today. I ran the numbers just on the places that I have now. And I went, I'm covering all of life's expenses, whether I do anything or not. And I called up my girlfriend. I was like, hey, C, you're not going to believe this. But I really, really crunched it. And I said, we can do what we want. Like, that's such a freeing feeling of having you just feel like the stress, like, go away. And it's pretty cool. You know, my last question, more of a statement, is tell the viewers about Super Fun Activities Club, and you know, you at the helm of it and running it, and you know, what it's about, how they can find you, and some of the fun stuff that you do. Yeah, so I'll start with how much the quarantine COVID life has made me appreciate how much a part of me the Super Fun Activities Club is. I miss getting to play dodgeball and volleyball and kickball. Like, I love playing the games. It's really fun. But what I really, really learned that I miss in a heartbeat is the interaction with good people. And that got the rest of the world, everybody got shut down, and that just got taken away. And you realize, like, I don't really give a shit about getting to play the sports. I mean, I love it. Like, it's cool, but at the end of the day, it's hanging out with the people, and it's getting to play games with honest, fun, genuine, kind people. That is just a joy. What the Super Fun Activities Club is, it's just an organization. It's a social club designed to get good people together to play silly children's games. It's an excuse for people to put on your calendar that on Tuesday night, I'm going to play volleyball. And because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'll do that when we can. We're like, if you don't commit to something, if you don't sign up for it, put it on your calendar, you might do it once or twice and life happens and it's not a priority and it's like a nice to do but not need to do. When you sign up for a league and get put on a team that's geared towards the good people playing fun games, interacting, your teammates now depend on you to show up. You put it on the calendar. It's so cool to see what we started from literally nothing to become this organization of good people getting together to have fun and interact and be social. We're obviously on Facebook through Super Fun Activities Club business page. We have a personal account called Quack the Duck, which is a rubber duck mascot to remind everybody that while you're playing games, don't ever take this too seriously. We also we have fundraisers. We do for LLS. We run dodgeball tournaments to raise money, and that stuff has been like extremely humbling to see what's the hand that some people are dealt to be able to help them in any way, shape, or form is good stuff. It's how I view life, and like, do things that you really enjoy doing. Don't take it too seriously. Go in with the right attitude and just enjoy the heck out of it.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on my Fridays 5.